Stuck on the Festival of Battles? Check out some of these units that may put you on the path to victory. How's it, everybody? Celtic Link here. We're back for another Dokkan battle video. In today's video, we are taking a look at the brand new challenge event, the Festival of Battles. This is the longest and most difficult event in Dokkan history. It provides an interesting challenge and something we've always been asking for, to be quite honest, an event where we can truly stack up our stacking units, right? So in this video, we are going to show you some of the units that you may want to bring on your teams to help you finish the fights. Some of them are pretty obvious, but others might be a few sleeper picks that you may not have considered to help you through this fight. So let's go ahead and let's hop on in and let's take a look. Let's start by taking a look at the bosses so we can see what we're dealing with, right? This is an extremely long event, as you can see here. There are over 50 phases, ending in the final battle against Vegito. And as you can see here, right, when we get to the end, we're dealing with 2 billion HP, 7 million normals, and a possibility of 3 super attacks. So what you are doing is you are stacking attack and defense all throughout this fight in order to meet the demand that this guy requires. And I'm going to be quite honest with you. I think a no item is possible. I think it's very, very RNG dependent. For example, right, I had done the run and 2 hours into it, UI sniped me, right? UI Goku with an 11 million snooper sniped me at, on my 3rd slot unit, ending the run right there. And that's a whole 2 hours gone. So if you don't want to end up in that position, let's take a look at some of the units you might want in order to deal with these major supers, right? So we're actually going to swap over into the game and we're going to show you a few of the units that we have set up here. So we'll come on over here. If you guys can go ahead and see our game here. So let's head over to our teams. All right. So I have a few basic teams already set up that I think are good for this event, right? So the first team we have here up at the top, you guys can see, is the AGL Gogeta team. This team puts the LR 7 years on a 220% lead, which I think is probably the best case scenario. It also gives you access to one LR Vegito who is on a 220% lead as well. Now, let it be known that I do believe that this character right here, the LR Year 7s and the LR Vegito are your top priorities for picks on a team to finish this fight, right? Vegito's target, because you will have stacked up more than enough defense to tank it combined with his active skill by that point. His target, combined with the damage that he's going to be outputting, because assuming you've also been swapping in and stacking that attack, is going to be really what push you through mostly the Gogeta phase. I feel like the triple super in the Vegito phase, as we saw, which was also a tech type, could pose a problem for him, but that is really dependent on how much you let him stack up, right? These guys, however, due to their ability to have near 100% damage reduction, are probably one of the best units for the final phase, especially when you combine them from the boost they would be getting from AGL Forku. I've seen these guys hit over 2 billion damage right there. Like, them alone would take out Vegito, and it's important because they have that 70% chance to counter as well. So you could potentially take 0 damage from Vegito. Of course, you could miss that and it might kill you, but again, with that potential of 0 damage, of course, that is useful. And again, right, chances of 3, he's got a cooldown of 3, so that tells you, like, his supers are more than likely in slot 1. So if you can hold until the final turn to transform them, yes, you're losing out on a couple massively stacks, but you have a 100% damage reduction turn nearly, which means that it's unlikely he's going to be able to kill you, and there's a good chance you're going to be able to counter it with that 70% chance to counter. So the 4s and Vegito are the two probably best units in the game. That goes without saying for this fight. The next pick, I think, for the team here that I think is probably a priority is Namek Goku. And I know what you're thinking. You know, Namek Goku wasn't the best unit on release. He got a lot of hate, but for this event specifically, he makes the perfect slot 1 unit because of the length and having that extra damage reduction that he gets right in slot 1. That extra damage reduction that he gets in slot 1 allows him to sit comfortably there by the turns where you get into these final phases, right? I had mine at over I had mine nearing 12 million defense by the time I got to the final phase. And this is on Gogeta's lead here. This is on his lead here, making it all that, meaning he was only on a 170. So that's actually kind of crazy. The next unit, of course, that I think is the priority is, of course, the Gogeta. So the first team, this first team pretty much relies on stacking up Gogeta, Vegito, and Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta, and then popping the active skills on the final 2 turns, or final 2 phases, rather, and just letting the fusions go to town. This is probably the easiest team to run it with. Of course, in those final phases, they can still get sniped. Like I said, with the team even with this team here, the LR Gods didn't dodge in the Tech UI phase and got sniped by the Super in the 3rd slot. So, I mean, it can happen, but it's probably going to be your highest win likelihood. Another option for a team here is a Battle of Fate center team. So this is my second team here that you see, led by the Goku and Frieza. These guys, while they aren't stacking defense, right, Goku's damage reduction that he's going to maintain throughout the entire fight once you get, because of how the early part of the fight works, where, you know, it's so easy, you can safely hold off until you swap into Goku, and then just let Goku keep stacking that attack until the final phase. His defense is going to be more than enough to carry him through to the final phases when you're ready to launch that final attack, right? And a lot of the same members of the team, right? AGL Forku, who provides a giant form, although giant form is not helpful in this event, right? Not only does it take up some of the charges that you're going to use in the fight, it's if you wait till the end to transform him, which you could, your Forku is not going to have enough defense to handle the normals. So realistically, you're transforming him very, very early on to let him stack defense, which he will be more than enough. While he does stack slow, you transform him early enough, combined with he'll get more than enough defense to safely sit in slot 2 next to the LR Super Saiyan 4s, right? So, he'll be fine once transformed, right? Because once transformed, right, he's got guard plus whatever defense he's getting. And I mean, if you really wanted, in some of these, you could push him slot 1 if you knew you weren't going to get a super attack, because at that point he'll be tanking most of the normals. So a sleeper pick from this are actually the LR-Z duo, because the fight is so easy early on. These guys can easily stack up to some big defense numbers, because they are greatly raising defense and then raising defense, and they can get up to 5 supers on their super attack in a turn. Obviously early on that's not going to be happening, but by the time you get to the parts of the fight that matter, they're going to be matching some of these other units on their defense. Plus, when you get to the final phase, you have their standby, which will of course allow them to be basically invulnerable with that amount of defense that they've got there, and of course give you a little nuke for the Vegito phase, which could potentially sway the fight in your favor. So they are quite a good pick here as well. Another good pick is AGL Frieza, since pretty much the entire fight is, with a few exceptions, since pretty much the entire fight is super class, he's going to be at his best. Now, of course, on the team that I have set up here, he doesn't have big bad bosses. That is the unfortunate thing about him. On any of they're at the current moment, we don't have many big bad bosses units that could link with him that would have that would be able to stack and keep up in this fight, or even just have the damage reduction necessary, right? Because the Frieza and the Goku Frieza doesn't have big bad bosses, as you can see here. Which, I mean, since they were doing a tag unit, I kind of wish they did give it to him, but unfortunately they didn't. But he'll still stack up plenty of defense, more so offense, which will be helpful in the final phases. But he'll still be stacking up enough defense to at least manage in the final towards the final phases, right? Especially if you got other units on this team to help him out, and you can put him safely away from the super attacks. So these are some of the units that I think would probably be best suit you. In fact, I think the two teams we have established here are probably some of the best setups you could run to take down this fight. I think they're going to have your highest likelihood of win rates. Now, in terms of sleeper pick for units, I think that could be helpful, right? So I have another setup here under Vegeta's successor lead, right? Tech Vegeta, being able to infinitely stack. He does stack slow, but stacking with guard, going to be building, on just like not quite at the level of Namek Goku, but he's going to be close enough that he could be a viable slot 1 and 2 option, where you could put him next to Namek Goku and you can kind of go back and forth between the two, and I would say you would find them in a pretty good place. A few sleeper picks in terms of stackers that I think could help on time throughout the fight. So Tech Ultimate Gohan should go without saying, right? He is a great stacking unit. He guards, he greatly raises attack and defense, and he is launching up to 4 to 5 supers per turn, right? He's going to be a great pick. The only issue is he currently doesn't have a 220% lead. That means if you are to run him, I do recommend running him on Glorio's team. If you manage to pull Glorio, coin him, or use your anniversary stone to get him, he is also another great unit. Not only does he have dodge, but he's greatly stacking attack and defense for the turn, which gives him enough to last the turn, but also infinitely stacking 9% and 6% in a battle. Now, on a unit that is launching 4 to 5 to 6 supers, actually I think he can get up to 6 in a turn, right? That's a 36% defense raise, the equivalent of a normal defense raise, and the equivalent of a greatly stack on an attack raise. Of course, that does assume that you get, all of his supers, but he's, again, him more so is going to be useful in terms of the 50% support that he's providing to both rotations, right? That's his big thing here, is that rotation support for 3 turns. It's going to allow, if you're running his lead, especially with 2 of them, it's going to allow you to keep up the damage on your units, even though you are running a 200% lead. Fat Boo is another great option, right? He isn't going to be dying early on, which will allow him to keep his defense raises up for as long as they can be. So he's going to be a really good option for this fight, combined with the fact that he's going to be having guard as long as you're above 50%. And then, eventually when you get to the part where the fights get hard and his defense didn't keep up, then he dies, and then you revive. Not only do you give yourself a free turn, you now have guaranteed guard, plus the fact that he is recovering HP at the start of the attacking turn. So that's also very helpful every time he shows up. So very, very good unit. Now, a couple units that I'm not showing here that I think could slide into teams if you're willing to submit to using items. So if we hop over to our character list here, and we just kind of look here at units that raise defense, right? Some good units here that I think can be helpful are units like let's pull him up here. If you're willing to submit to use items, units like, where is he? Tech Gogeta, right? They could work very well because they are raising attack. Defense is going to leave a little bit to be desired, but of course that can be mitigated that can be mitigated through the use of items. But the other good one that is useful here is the Tech Sword of Hope Trunks. Again, I know that sounds crazy, but if you're willing to use items towards the final phase, he can actually stack quite quickly, keeping up nearly with some units like like the Z Duo almost. So like, if Z Duo is a good pick, this guy can also work very well if you're using items. Same goes for a character like Int Broly, if I can find him here. Let's go. Let's actually just make this a little bit easier. Int Pure Saiyans, right? So Int Broly will also work very well here. There's a lot of pure and hybrid Saiyans, which means he's going to be getting a lot of opportunities to build his defense, his attack and defense up throughout the turns. Again, if you're willing to use items, it's going to be more than enough to help you take down the final phases, right? He's going to be stacking a little slower than some of these other units, right? Because his stack is only a 30% stack. So he will be stacking a little bit lower than some of these, but I mean, with as long as this event is, it's going to be enough for him to tank. Some other picks that could be helpful, again, if you're submitting to using items, characters like the Zeno Vegetas and the Zeno Gokus, they will also be good. Where is he? Zeno Goku. Both of these guys who EZA'd last year would be very useful. They do stack quite quickly. The Vegeta especially, they do and he is of course on Gogeta's lead. They do stack they both stack very quickly, which will allow them to kind of keep up with some of your other units. And I think that's pretty much it. I mean, God Goku could work as well. He does have that chance to dodge. He will drop off after a bit, but then he will start to pick up again as you make it past his, as you overcome the loss of his intro. But he will still, the issue with God Goku compared to some of these other units is like keeping up his defense won't be free. You do need to manage orbs with him, which may prove to be difficult if you're running some of these other LR heavy teams that need those orbs to get their 18 keys, especially the gods and the 4s who are going to need them more. But he is an option, right? You want to run him next to the gods. They could make a pretty swell rotation based on your setup here. Other than that, there really aren't too many other choices, I think, at this point that could be super helpful, right? If we just take a quick look through our list here. Yeah, not so many of these other units are stacking defense infinitely. Characters like Beast Gohan, they're going to be right out for this event, right? I guess Gogeta could work, but as you approach the final phases, things are going to get a little dicey for him. You're probably going to want to transform him earlier than some of these other characters and begin relying on his dodge, which isn't a bad thing, right? It does, if RNG plays to your favor, it will give you some good, it will give you a target skill at the end, which basically gives you a free turn, right? So, could work out. Otherwise, yeah, like I said, I don't think there are too many other options, sleeper options that might fit in here. Maybe with the use of items, I could see Vegeta and Trunks working well, but they are stuck to slot 1, and I don't think they can stack fast enough to be that, right? A lot of these other options can stack and be okay with the use of items in slot, slot 2 or 3, but these guys have to go slot 1, so I'm hesitant to say that they are a sleeper pick here, but otherwise, I mean, there really aren't many other choices here. Birdku, maybe, with the length of this event, right? He is, I believe he is stack. Yeah, he does stack on his 18 key, but it's a very slow stack. But he will have guard for most of this, because you'll be keeping it up. And he also gives your team access to a revive. So maybe there, but I'm hesitant to recommend him or the Vegeta and Trunks just because I do feel like their stack is a bit too slow. The trade-off might not be fully there. So guys, that is it for the video. Those are some of my picks for the Festival of Battles event. This is an incredibly long and difficult event, and I wish you all the best of luck. Hopefully some of the picks that I threw out here are some that you may not have considered. We will be taking this event on Friday. We will be doing it live because I legitimately do not have time to sit down and do a 2-hour recording session for this fight, so we will just do this event live. So make sure you guys tune in on Friday, March 14th, where we take down this event. So guys, that is it for the video. If you like the video, make sure you hit that like button and subscribe to the channel if you have not already. And in the comments down below, let us know what teams did you use to take down this event, if you've beaten it already, and if you can think of other sleeper picks that maybe we missed that would be great to help you in this event. Let us know in the comments down below. Otherwise, guys, as always, thanks for watching, and aloha.